Hello, hello. Happy Pentecost Sunday, June the 5th, 2022. And I'm Timothy Stewart, podiatrist, and I don't walk like you do. I don't walk on my heels. I put the weight of my body onto the muscles instead of stacking my bones. All right? Now, as a podiatrist, I was taught proper walking and all of these fantastic concepts which we turn into profit by treating people. So we're supposed to walk like this, right? With our chin up, back straight, and our arms swing when we walk. And this is what is considered to be proper posture. However, so many people I know have failing necks, lower backs, hips, and knees. I believe it's from stacking your bones and beating them up mercilessly instead of putting the weight of your body onto your muscles, and they absorb a lot of the shock. So God gave us toes, and I decided to try and use mine. I had this idea as a very young man, and I didn't do it because I didn't want to be different. I wanted to be like everybody else, and I kind of forgot about it until in 2016, my brother Charles suggested I try a pair of the toe shoes. And so I got a pair, not this pair, of course, and put them on, and immediately I was reminded that God gave us toes for a reason to use. And so I started using mine, and I committed to walk this way the rest of my life. I told my friends and family, and I'm sure they all thought I was out of my mind, on drugs or whatever, okay? But it feels good, and I will continue to do it if I'm able. So I had been praying to the Lord. Why is it that I'm the only one that sees this? And if it is correct, and I do believe it's correct, how do I tell the world? And how do I convince even one person to do it? And I prayed that this not be my destiny, that I have to tell the world. And yet here I am telling you. Well, I prayed fervently, and I think the Lord listened to my prayers and said, quit whining. And on June the 2nd of 2021, my sister Sarah's birthday, my prayers were answered. And the Lord Jesus Christ appeared to me just as the Gospel of John in Revelations foretold he would. He appeared upon the clouds in glory. And this is the story of how it happened. I got home from work that day, and I had been playing football, flag football, all winter long. And in April, I injured my left shoulder. It was separated. The collarbone attachment was torn and stretched, not completely, but a partial separation. And there was a large bruise that took a long time to heal. And it was 6 or 7 weeks later that I got home from work and I thought, quit feeling sorry for yourself and do something. Start rehabbing that shoulder. And I couldn't do chin-ups, but I could stand on this bar and grab this and do these squats, okay? So I jumped on the bar like this. I was facing the hillside, though. The sun had set below that horizon there. The sky was bright blue. There were just one noticeable cloud up in the sky, and I usually did about 50 of these repetitions. But this time, I did 100 pretty fast. And I thought that wasn't so hard. I can probably do 500. So that's what I thought I would try to do, 500 of these squats. And the Lord knows what's in your heart. And he must have heard me. And right above that large tree, there was a cloud. It wasn't moving. And in front of that cloud, a beautiful woman appeared. She was floating, and she had a voluptuous figure, and she wore a white dress. It was gathered at her neck, under her bosom, and at her waist. She looked like a young woman in her 20s or early 20s, I couldn't tell, but the details in her face wouldn't give that away. They were cartoon-like. She was just a white face and small dots for eyes, maybe a little eyebrow, and very small nose and a mouth. A very plain face, but she was pleasing to look at. And I wondered what this was. Was it an angel? Was it my guardian angel? Well, I thought it didn't matter. Whatever this was, came to see me. Oh, and I kept counting away. And probably at about 150 somewhere in the count, another vision appeared in the sky. Well, the woman, I should have finished her description. She had short black hair, and she was looking across the sky. She was not looking at me. She was floating this way. And her hands and feet seemed to be concealed in the folds of her the dress. And there was no motion. She was perfectly still. And it was as if she had been painted, using the clouds to paint her. And there was no color, just black and white like the clouds, like you see looking at clouds. Well, after she had been there for a short time, another vision appeared on the other side of the sky. And this vision appeared to be a road made out of light. It came from as far away in the sky as I could see. And it was like a pinpoint. But it came out as two rails of light. And they got wider, and they came out overhead as I was going over the bar. They were coming towards me. And there appeared to be a procession the entire length of this road. It looked very orderly, like a military style of procession. And there appeared to be pairs of things moving along. And in between each of the pairs, there seemed to be something, a singular thing. It was 2, 1, 2, 1, as far as I could see. And I couldn't tell what they were, but they got closer, and I could see the two things were angels, one on each side of the road. One here and one here, moving as if they were on a conveyor belt, slowly towards me. And they had their wings out. There was no motion. They were white. And they were so far away and high in the sky, I could not see faces. And I couldn't see details of whatever clothing they wore, if any. But they were plain to see. The feet came together very tightly, and they were very strong in the body, and the wings went out. And there were two of them at a time, and they kept moving. And in between, right after each pair of angels, there was something I couldn't tell what that was. But as it got closer, I could see there was a face in the sky. And it was so far away I couldn't see. But it came off the road, and it looked at me, and it was pretty big. And it was the face of a man. And he had a large beard and a big head of hair, real thick, like Grizzly Adams or Brett Kiesel. And he wasn't smiling. He was gray, kind of like the color of a dark stone, granite. And I could see the features of his face, as well as I could see someone standing not far from me. And it was just a face, no neck, just the face, no shoulders, nothing else. And he didn't smile, and he looked at me as I'm still counting away, and he stayed for a few repetitions, and then he disappeared. Then another face came off the road. It was the same gray color, no red lips, nothing, but I could see his face as well as I can see anyone who's in front of me. And he didn't smile either, just a face. He had a shorter beard, thinner hair, a thinner face, and he looked at me as I counted a few of these squats, and he disappeared. And then another face came, a third one, and he looked at me too for a little bit. And I'd never seen any of these faces before, and I know I'd never been to heaven, so didn't know who they were, but I thought these were perhaps some saints. And the angels who accompanied it, with the legions of angels that were in the sky, they were countless. They went as far down the road as I could see, and there were objects between every pair of angels too, as they were guardians of these things, it seemed. Well, as I'm counting away, I was probably around 200, and I was standing like this, and my feet began to hurt so badly I had to jump off the bar. But I jumped right back on and put my toes together. I jammed my big toes together, and of course I was wearing my toe shoes, and the pain went away, and the toes held my weight. And I thought, don't worry, this can't be as bad as Christ had it. He had nails in his feet, and if my toes hurt, it can be nothing like he suffered, and I shouldn't complain. So I kept going. And it was probably about, that was just over 200 when the pain made me jump. But I got back on, and my toes held me, and I kept counting. And then the woman in the sky changed. Her face turned black. It filled with smoke, and it was jet black now. And her hair disappeared, came off the head. And instead of this cute woman looking across the sky, there was now a black skull that looked like it just came out of the fire. And the details in the skull were much more clear and sharp than the woman's face was. And her true nature had been revealed. Obviously, this was not my guardian angel. And it was looking in the exact same direction and position as the floating woman. Well, I got pretty scared. But I kept going, and I thought, she's up in the sky. I'm here on the earth. I'm flesh. She is not flesh. She can't harm me. And I kept counting. And I thought, thank goodness she's not looking at me. And then all of a sudden, very slowly, the head turned. And it didn't stop until it was looking directly into my eyes. And I could see into the eyes of this skull. There didn't appear to be any teeth on the jaws of the skull. And inside of the eyes, I could see a vast fire, much larger than you would expect from looking into something like that. But it went on, and the flames were burning, and now I got terrified. I started shaking, but I kept going. I kept counting, and I thought, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He guides me through green pastures, and here I am in my backyard. This is a green pasture. I'm safe. And thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And just then, above the clouds, the face of Christ appeared. And immediately the demon was gone. And I didn't even realize it. But I never saw it again. And Jesus was a silver image in the sky, and light was shining from his face. and he was high above me on top of that cloud, looking down at me like you would look at a child at your feet. He was looking at me like this, just a face like the other three faces, no neck, just his face. And he was looking at me like this, kind of looking down his nose a little bit. His eyes were together, and he had a big smile. And now I felt no pain in my feet, and I kept counting. And as I gazed upon the image of Christ, he appeared to be still like a painting in the sky, like an artist painted it. He was perfectly still. There was no motion, but I could see every hair on his beard. The beard was short, had a little curl to it. The hair was much like mine today, and it went over his head, and he wore a crown of thorns. There were long black triangles with a narrow base and a long tip, jet black, and they went around his head, and they were in different directions, and there was no vine holding the thorns. It was only thorns. And he didn't move, he just smiled. And since I knew, he knew I said I could try to do 500, that I decided to keep going. And I kept counting, and I could see the details of his face. There were some ridges on the nose. I could see the little creases in the eyes, his lips, the creases that normal people have. And his lips were together, and they were smiling. And of course, little mustache, and no color. It was pure silver. Everything was silver with shading, black shading. And he just looked down at me smiling, and I kept going. And I was able to continue, and I made it to 500. And all the while, he was there smiling at me, encouraging me, I thought. So I kept going. And I finished the 500 and jumped off the bars and got on my knees and blessed myself and did the only thing I knew to do, and that was say the Lord's Prayer. So I prayed, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And as I finished the prayer, I thought, I had a question for our Lord. And I think I wanted to ask, what should I do? Please tell me what to do. Well, I finished the prayer and I blessed myself. And the instant my hands touched, he left the sky. He went away from the cloud and flew to where the road had been, and the road was now retreating. But he stopped, and he was much smaller now. He was huge in the sky, and it was magnificent. And he stopped, though, and he turned back. He was much smaller, and he looked at me, and his lips moved. I saw them move, but I heard nothing. I only heard birds and crickets. And he disappeared, and the vision was gone. It has never returned. However, I still have seen him in the sky, but never in such detail. And I've seen other signs in the sky too. But now I'm looking for things, and perhaps I'm imagining them. But I did not imagine this apparition, which appeared to me on June the 2nd, 2021. And I hope that I never deny that the Lord came to me and I saw him. I don't want to be like Peter, Now, Peter was facing death. Perhaps the mobs would have grabbed him and they would have crucified him with Jesus. And Peter was human and he was afraid. And I don't want to be that way. So, what was it all about? Well, the three men, I believe, were Peter, James, and John. The same three apostles that witnessed the transfiguration of our Lord upon Mount Tabor. And remember, at that event, the Lord spoke and said, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him." And Christ didn't tell me anything, but his disciples told us everything. They've given us his story. They shed their blood. They all died martyrs but for John, who gave us revelations. And revelations has occurred. He has appeared upon the clouds in great glory to his son, his weak, ailing, old 60-year-old Timothy. I was 59 when that happened. And so I will continue to walk on my toes. And I guess he answered my prayer. I asked him, what should I do? And the answer is tell everyone. Because he didn't tell me, as he told Peter, James, and John to do. He didn't say, don't tell anybody until the Son of Man rises. Well, the Son of Man is risen. He did not tell me not to tell you, and so I must share it. And it's with great joy I bring this message to you. Christ has returned, and all will be forgiven if we listen to the Lord and return to God with all your heart and your soul. And walk on your toes, because this is the way God made us. He gives us everything we need and nothing that we don't need, and we can use our toes. Walk on them. I don't want disciples. I am not a leader. I'm just giving you an example. My example for you is to walk on your toes. It is good for your body, and it's pleasing to the Lord, who smiled upon his servant right here on June the 2nd, 2021. And that is my story. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. I cannot tell you the joy that I have felt just delivering this message. Thank you.